tangent, and the boat was okay. We were not hit. That was one miracle. The fact that I got out of Vienna and alive was the second miracle. So there's another one where I really should have died, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, there's a little angel flying around there. If you don't believe in angels, I do. His job is to look after me. And now I'm 93 years old.
He did a good job then.
He did a good job. He's still there. Hello.
Okay. So and you then came back to London. That was already at the end of the war.
After no, it was still the war.
Mm-hmm.
But when the British Navy was controlling the seas, not the Germans, that's when they let us go. And it's still interned us in the Isle of Man, because they wanted to be sure that no Nazis were mixed in with the Jews and so on.
Do you
and then
remember?
I had this uncle of mine living in London, so I had somewhere to go to.
Do you remember when you the first time started hearing about what is happening to the Jews in Europe? During the war, did you already hear rumors about what's happening?
See, I had, there was no communication between England and Austria. No communication anywhere in the English, what they call empire in those days. Australia was. But they made an exception. They said, you are really a prisoner of war, which is not true. You are a prisoner of war when you're in a uniform, you are fighting this country. I was in no uniform, I didn't fight, I was just had a British, Austrian passport. That made me an enemy. And these booklets were called For Enemy Aliens. Now when the boat was hit by a torpedo, and we had all the letters we could send, my parents were able to send prisoner of war letters. It was thin paper, so that the spies couldn't send messages. And it was wartime special, the Red Cross did that. So everybody had, from Vienna or Germany or Czechoslovakia, a pile of letters in their suitcases. So when the boat was hit, the suitcases we couldn't take down with us, they were on top, they fell into the sea. Mm. So the submarine commander, up periscope, they're suitcases. Now let's see who is this in this boat. So the submarine waited, and it went up and picked up some of these suitcases, opened them up, found letters, all in German. I couldn't speak English at that time. You know, I was from Austria. I spoke all my letters to my mother and father were in German. So I had a pack of letters. So they found my letters and other people's letters, and the commander, but this wasn't known at that time.
Yeah, no, later.
He went later, when the war was over, he went on television. I saved so many German lives, he said, but it was Jewish lives, because we were all Jews on that boat. And because of those letters, he didn't send any more torpedoes. On the contrary, he said, I nearly torpedoed my brothers, my German brothers, you know, the German, and he was very proud of this. But he didn't really know, even when he went on television after the war, that we were all 2,000 Jews. And then he said, I did not shoot them. I gave him cover that no other submarine will shoot them. I gave him right down to South Africa, and then I let them go.
Wow.
Miracles.
Almost.
Now I spoke enough. You have enough to write a book.
Can I just ask you 2 more questions? So, after the war, you were living then in England most of your life?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In
60 years.
60 years. What were you doing in England? So your wife is also from England?
Hmm?
Your wife is also from England?
No, she's from India.
Ah.
And I met her in England because she got a scholarship as the best violinist of the whole of India. So she got to England, where she met in the college, Royal College of Music, a lady who happened to be a cousin of my cousin. And I was renting a room in that cousin of my cousin, one room in London. And Esther said, that's the name of my wife, I have to practice and I need a pianist to accompany me because I'm going to the Albert Hall and I have to perform. So this cousin of mine says, well, why don't you live with us, with me in my house? I've got a room to let. Because I let rooms. And I'm the pianist. I'll be accompanying you for your concerts. And you can live and we can play together. And I was the woman up the first floor. And she gave to my wife-to-be the room down on the first floor. Together with another young lady who was a singer. So they shared a room and I was on the first floor. And at that time I was doing war work in a food factory, which was so that I didn't have to go to the army because I was on war work producing food for the army. But I had to work 2 weeks day, 2 weeks nights. It was 24 hours, the machine of food, making spaghetti, macaronis for the army. So when I was sleeping, my wife and her friend downstairs, when I was working, they were sleeping. When I came home to this room, they said they can hear. I was so tired after night work, I just pushed my shoes off and they heard the shoe from the ceiling through, and they were waiting, where's the other shoe? But I fell asleep, so I slept with one shoe on and one shoe off, and they never made so much fuss of me. They take a broomstick and pushed on the ceiling, which was my floor. Where's the shoe? They shouted up. The second shoe. We can't go to sleep because you haven't put yourself. And that's how we got a bit friendly. And then we became more friendly. And finally we got married.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know everything.
And when did you come to Israel? And why?
When I was 80. So in London I had a factory.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all I was employed, and then some distant cousin said, oh, look here, I've got somebody I know, he has a shoe factory and there's such a shortage, we could use somebody who's who knows machinery. I'm very mechanically minded. I'll give you the money, lend you the money, buy a cutting machine, it's about that big, and you put the shoe soles in for metal, shape of a shoe sole, and you cut it, and you cut it, and you cut, and you get 3 pennies for each cut. Do this. I will invest the machinery, and then you pay me back bit by bit. And that's how I became a manufacturer of shoes and shoe materials.
In London?
In London, yes. Because he lent me the money to buy this big machine, which I didn't have the money to do it, and I paid it off £50 a week. £50 a week. And I don't owe him a thing.
And then when you were 80, you decided to...
I said to my wife said, so how long are you going to work? I said, when we get our old age pension, but this is already at 65, then I don't want to finish work at 65. What will I do? Watch dirty movies? I liked to work, so I worked till I was 80, and I said, when we are 80, I sell all the machinery, and we go to Israel. I always wanted to go to Israel. And she said, okay, I will teach. She was a teacher, and she became a headmistress. As long as when you're 80, we go. Okay, we go.
You had visited Israel
we are
before?
here for 13 years.
But you'd already come for visits before also to Israel? Before you moved, you had already also come to visit Israel before? Or it was,
Yes, yes. On holidays, yes. We loved it here. No snow.
And your children were also living in Israel, or?
Half of them, my children, they wanted to be free. So half of them went to America, and the other half stayed in England.
Oh, okay.
2 and 2. But when we emigrated, the ones who stayed in London came here as well. So I've now got half my children here and half in America.
And how was it for you to start a new life with 80 here in Israel again?
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it here. Well, my wife is very clever, otherwise she wouldn't be a teacher. And people say, well, why did you come, or how do you come, or do you like it? So she said, in the continent, in Vienna, my husband said he always has to look who's behind him. Watch the man behind you. He can be a Nazi, an anti-Semite. Since he's gone to Israel, he doesn't have to look behind him. They're all Jews here. That's it. I don't have to look behind my back. In Vienna, when I saw a policeman come, I went to the other side of the road. Why? The policeman once gave me a thing on my head. Jew boy! I had a lump on my head the way he gave me just for nothing, passing by. I said, here in Israel I don't have to do that. Nobody's hitting me on my head.
In England you also experienced anti-Semitism sometimes?
Yes, not as violent, but let's say in England, Saturday afternoon is football time. And I don't know whether you ever heard of football hooligans. You know, so just when we came out from synagogue, from prayers, and I was very friendly, we had a young rabbi, and we were good friends, but he had a beard and a big hat on, not a cap like I do, and they went to the football match. But on the way, they were shouting, Jews, Jews, kike, kike. Kike is an
Insult for Jews.
insult for Jews. I don't have to listen to kike here, so I'm happy.
Did you ever visit Vienna again?
Once I went with my wife to show her where I was born. And my father had, I don't know, you know Vienna, so there are big blocks. We lived on the second floor, but whoever had a business in the main entrance, my father had a plaque. Julius Ungar, knitwear, that's what he did, so that the postman knows, and underneath is a post box. This plaque, when we visited, was pulled out by the Nazis. But the 4 holes in the wall were still there. And that killed me. Not killed me, but I broke down. That was the first time I actually cried for my parents. My father was so happy with it when he established himself in Vienna. And then I just saw the 4 holes, that's all. And that made me emotional. It still makes me emotional when I think about it. And it's now so many years ago.
So you went to all the places you had known in childhood?
Yes, we were twice or 3 times too, but I wasn't happy in Austria.
Didn't feel good there?
I didn't. But in those days we had a big car, and we went touring the whole of Europe. So when we went to Austria, and we went over towards Italy, because my wife said, look here, you're not happy here. You're supposed to go on a holiday. You're not happy. I said, how can I be happy? Everything reminds me of my home and my parents and so on. Let's go to Italy. So we went over the Brenner Pass, that's over the Alps. And when I suddenly went, and the road over the Brenner Pass is like in a zigzag. You can't go up that, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
But when you get right up to the top and you go down to where you see Italy, I said, Italia! I let go of the steering wheel and I shouted out, kids, we are in Italia, we are out of the German Vienna. I'm happy. So let's have O Sole Mio. I taught my children to sing O Sole Mio. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So just after the war you found out what had happened to your parents?
The Red Cross, to whom I applied what happened, they gave me after years, a list. They were deported at this and this day to this and this to the town called Belzec. And Belzec was a concentration camp. So after I got information of that, we went on a holiday and we went to Lublin, it's near Lublin, which is the southern part of Poland, and we found where Belzec is. So I don't know how well you are with Jewish prayers or something. If you heard Kaddish, when you say it. So I was going to say Kaddish
For them.
for them. And when it came to it, I broke down. I couldn't get it over my lips. And as the rang up our first son, the oldest one, and he says, I'm here, Dad has broken down, he wants to say Kaddish, he can't even open it, so give me the phone, he says. And he said the Kaddish and I listened to it and then I recovered. I couldn't even say the Kaddish, it was terrible.
They were all brought to Belzig, your family.
Sorry?
They were all brought to Belzig, your parents and your sister.
They all
Yeah.
went, they all. But now I've got, thank God, I've got a new family. I've got 4 children, 23 grandchildren, and 12 great-grandchildren. The 12th arrived 3 weeks ago.
That's out of. Can you tell me just
Ninim,
the...
called Ninim.
Nim?
Ivrit.
Hamud. Can you tell me the names of your parents and of your sister?
My parents' name,
Mm.
Julius
Ungar.
Ungar.
Mhm.
That's it. Married to Regina Ungar.